Okay, let's start. In this tutorial, I'm going to cover Robot Framework. Robot Framework is it's a test automation framework, and I've got a few slides here. There's a few points I'm going to cover. So first, I'm going to talk briefly on what Robot Framework is. Then I will try to type through a test case for web application called Password Management. It's an internal company application that allows users to self-manage their password. If they forget a password, they can reset by answering a few secret questions. I'm trying to do that in a kind of a step-by-step fashion, so hopefully that you can follow it through clearly. I'm going to spend most of the time on typing through this test case in this tutorial. After that, I will explain briefly on the report generated as a result of the test case. Hopefully, ideally, when you run through a test case, some kind of report will be generated for your consideration. And I think Robot Framework generates quite a good report, and it provides some flexibility. It's worth a bit discussion there. Then technically, I'm going to cover briefly some installation tips, some third-party libraries in case you want to do some not so conventional things like UI testing. Maybe you are required to go check a database, run a bash command in a remote Linux box, or even required to do a REST API test. So there are third-party libraries that you can use to do that, and I think it's worth covering them, because when you put all these things together, and you can become rather powerful when it comes to testing. So, finally, I'm going to address some risks. Business have concerns over is it going to cost too much to do those test cases, and is it going to take an expert to develop some skills in using Robot Framework? How long it takes to do a usual test case, that kind of things. All right. And so first things first, what is Robot Framework? And it's basically an open source framework for test automation. If you ask me what test automation is, I have to scratch my head. So basically my understanding is that you automate a manual process. If you're a tester, you usually open the browser, typing something, going to that page, check visually the results is expected. The framework test automation is basically automate the process so that you can run the whole test cases at night when no one is in the office. And if you sit in front of the computer, you would see a whole bunch of screen splashes all the time. That's what test automation is, conceptually. And Robot Framework is a test case driven by keyword or plain English, implemented by keyword or plain English. So in the testing world, and if you ever played with test automation tools or frameworks, you hear this word keyword all the time. So what is keyword? My interpretation is that, my understanding is that it is nothing but plain English that represents a user action. For instance, like click button, my button. Right? So this is clearly represents a user action, click button, and this my button could be the element ID of a button that you want to click. So if you write test cases in such a fashion, like you improve your readability, you make things a lot easier to operate, to maintain. So I guess those are the philosophies behind the keyword testing. A Robot Framework uses keyword testing in plain text file For instance, you can write you write your whole test in a text file, a plain text file, and the robot framework provides an interpreter to execute the test cases you write in the text file, right? So from a high level, the robot framework is a wrap-up of Python or Java libraries. At the bottom, sitting at the bottom, all those implementations are written in Python, high-level languages like Python, Java, and the robot framework wrapped it up and presents you with a set of keywords that ideally can be easily used and maintained. That's the idea. That's the idea of I guess any wrap-up. Right. That's basically what it is. What a robot framework is in a nutshell. And this is a typical text file, test case written in robot framework text file, and you can see the structure is quite straightforward. You have settings. As settings, you can provide some documentation. All this colored text, like documentation, suite setup, suite teardown, are keywords provided by robot framework. And following it, you can define your actions. For instance, suite teardown, like a suite is a test suite. So in a text file, you can write multiple test cases, like under the test cases tag. For instance, in this case, I've got two test cases, like valid login and place order via web. Two test cases. Together, they become a test suite because they run in one go. And yeah, you can put in as many as test cases you want. But apparently, when you do a large project, you want to break things down into smaller parts to so that you can manage them properly. Alright, so you have the suite teardown, so it says, look, you can define some actions after you run through all these tests. But in this case, after finish running all these test cases, what I do is I simply close all the browsers. Well, you want to put your computer back to a clean state before you run another set of tests. Like in other cases, like if you want to test a database, you probably want to, after you finish running all the test cases in the test suite, you probably want to close the connection and clean up the resources, that kind of thing. And then you can define your resources. And like a resource is like, if you ever programmed in Java or any other language, like it's a bit like importing. You can in a resource file you define some the variables, URL, like a text file, whatever, and the resources. So it's a way to manage your text. If you put everything into this a single text file, it may look very busy and not easy to manage. It just allows a way that you can break down your efforts, your resources across different files. All right, and in your test cases, you concentrate on writing your test cases. Okay. Right, this is what it looks like, a test case looks like in robot framework. Alright, so for a test case, you put in a whole bunch of so-called keywords or user actions, right? Together, they should represent a business transaction. So if you are familiar with the application, this is one of the things we developed for a client. And if you're familiar with that application, you can see all these actions together. They represent a very clear business case. For instance, you open browser and log in, apparently, like you have to use a web username, a web password. Then you populate a place order page. If you know that application, you know what place order page is. Basically, you go to that page, typing a lot of things. And then after that page, you go to another page, typing more things. So on and so forth, until you come to the check summary page where you actually tick confirm box and go boom, submit. That's together, as I said in the beginning, they represent a business case, and that's the idea. That's the whole idea of keyword and testing. But a straightforward business case can be easily represented in plain English. All right, we've done enough talk. Let's see if we can talk through a tutorial. Right. This application we're going to test is internal password management application. It basically allows you to reset your password. Like, if you forget your password, if you're lucky enough that you've set a couple of secret questions, answers to the secret questions, you can use them to retrieve or reset your password. Right? And what I'm going to do today is to automate this application, testing of this application. I'm not going to do it too complicated, just a simple one, like, in this case, John Doe. This is John Doe logged in, click set password. He then just go select a question, put in an answer, and after finish, he click save response and log out. That's what I'm going to do. I think it represents some challenges when you do a UI testing. When you do a UI testing, and you'll find that most likely you'll find, especially when you begin in the beginning of your test career, you find that you've spent a lot of time selecting the elements. The web HTML page organizes the whole element like in a DOM tree. And sometimes, if the developer is smart enough that putting a unique static ID, then it's easy for you to identify a particular element. However, if it's not, and some elements, IDs, everything is assigned dynamically, you find that sometimes you have to scratch your head to actually identify, to locate an element. But as long as you are, after a while, after you get familiar with the environment and you're familiar with the XPath notation, and you know a couple of tricks, things will become a lot easier. Right? Let's log out. And, let's start by typing. Let's make a directory called demo. Go to demo. Make a few directories called resources, where I'm going to keep all my resource files. Remember resource files, like where's my slides? Okay. See this resource files. I'm going to create a directory that I can put in my resource files. The actual test cases, I'm going to put it in a folder called tests. And maybe other directories like report. I want all the report to go to a report directory. And if it's a complicated project, I'll put in some data, as well as maybe Java lib. Alright. Now I'll create all this folder. Let me open this folder with my Sublime. Open the folder with my Sublime. There we go. I've got this folder in place. But you can actually do your test case with any text editor, right? And Robot Framework gives you an ID called write, where you can actually provide functions like autocomplete and everything. But in my case, and to make things a bit simple to follow, I just use Sublime. And Sublime has got a robot plugin that it will highlight all this syntax, Robot Framework syntax. Like you can have this Robot Framework text. So that's not too bad, right? Let's start by doing test. maybe let's call it PWM reset set secret questions. Right. And let's also create another file called resource file. This is txt. This is my. So in this tutorial, I'll pretty much just use these two files. But if the your project is pretty big and apparently you need more stuff, like Java libraries, third-party libraries. If it's a data-driven test case, you probably need a lot of data in there as well. But for the purpose of demonstration, probably for this tutorial, I just use these two files, right? All right, and now let's do this. And you start by putting the structure settings. And then you go there we go. This. Test cases. Okay, your keyword. Alright, and in your settings, and you can do some documentation. This is the demo, and then you can go suite setup, suite done, test setup. Alright, let's double check. This is what we did here, like in the slides we put there, and this is generally a structure of your test case. Now we go, so we follow the check resources. Resource, okay, this is actually sorry, notice. Okay, now resource type. Resource. You can define like multiple resources, like for instance, in this particular test case, I have two resources, like a resource text, resource placeholder web.txt. So in the resource text, I put in a generic resource like libraries and stuff, and in this resource placeholder web, I put in a specific resource for this test suite, right? So you just have to figure out a way to organize your things a bit. Right. This resource. Right. Now come back to the resource. Again. And do keywords. That's it. You don't put in any test case in the result, right? Yeah, just and over there you do some again documentation. You don't have to do it. Okay. And Now, this is place will include the library. In this particular case, I have to use Selenium to apply. I use another library called string. I use called operating system. Called screenshot. So actually, if you include this resource file, right, and you actually say, look, I'm going to use all the keywords provided by those libraries. The actual keywords are provided by those libraries. Some of them are third-party libraries, like Selenium library, and some of them are like the screenshot is actually a system library. So if you put your libraries in this resource text, then you can maybe you can include it in another test suite or text file. You don't have to write it like all the time. So that's the idea of using a resource file, right? And then we put some variables in there. This is the way variable is written in Robot. The IP address. This is the port number. This is the contact path. Login path, and put together, you get your login URL. Using this IP address, followed by phone number. IP address, port number, context path. Then together they form the URL, which is this, right? This part. Alright, then I'm gonna go browser. Define the browser I'm going to use. It's called Chrome. You can also test whatever browser you want. You can test IE, you can test Firefox. I'll demonstrate, if I got time, I'll demonstrate that. A few more. Embedding. That user. The password. make sure you have more than 2 space between. It's a requirement of Riva framework that between the two components of you have to leave at least 2 space, right? Make sure that is the case. Now I'm going to define some keywords here that can be used by our test case. So let's say let's open the browser to login page. And the keywords can have arguments. I'll demonstrate how to use arguments later on in the test case. Let's see, in this particular case, all I need is a URL. Okay. And open the browser. So one thing you have to pay attention to is that this thing, open browser, you have to, as I said before, the actual keywords provided are provided by those libraries, right? To find out what keywords are available in this library, you have to go to the documentation. Let's go there and have a look. And if you go to test libraries, external libraries, and you go to Selenium 2 libraries, and where's the keywords? Keywords documentation. You see all these keywords are documented here, are available. Like for instance, you can go open browser. There's open browser. There's open browser. Where's open browser? Page. Oh, there you go. This is open browser. You know, it has to be followed by a few parameters like URL, what kind of a browser, and so on and so forth. Right? In my case, I've only got URL. That should be let's put in URL, and then browser. I remember this browser I've already defined here called Chrome. You can override that later on when you call the actual test case. You can override a parameter on command line, and so that if you want to test a Chrome or if you want to test the Firefox, you can easily do that. But in this case, let's just test it with Chrome. And there we go. After we open the browser, we just go maximize the browser in there, right? And we go set delay. We actually we already found the delay here, which is 0. We say, look, don't delay it because well, only you have to slow it down to observe, and otherwise there's no need for any delay. And page open. Let's go hi. If everything is fine so far, the title should be so, well, the purpose of this keyword is that, look, I just provide a URL and it will log into that page and make sure it logs in successfully. Right, so basically, if you come back to this page, if you log in, And if you look at the source code, and if you look at the title is like password self-service. So basically, if you come to this page with the title password self-service, you know for sure that you've logged in properly. That's why we put a condition, a checkpoint here to say title should be login page title should be password self-service. This title should be, again, it's a keyword provided by the library. So if you have a look, title should be, look, there you go. So basically this keyword tracks the web page as a title element that is defined by this title text. For details, just have a look. I mean, the good thing about this robot framework is that all these documentation keywords are pretty much straightforward. It doesn't take too much time to understand, and you don't have to scratch your head. So I guess this is one of the good things about keyword testing. It's simple, put that way. There we go. We'll come back to our demo. There we go. Okay. Right, this is pretty much our resource file. Yeah, okay. Now let's come back to our secret text. Resources. Okay. Let's start by doing a test case called reset. PWM stands for password management. Stick with question. And here we go. The first thing we do apparently is to lock let's define a keyword here first. Log into do this one first. Do this. Let's demonstrate like how to use the keyword in a resource file to define to make things easier to manage by bringing another level of keywords. Let's call it log into PMW with login URL. Remember, we have already defined this login URL here in this variable. And apparently, when we log into PMW, we have to give it a username. The valid username, valid user. And another one is valid password. Valid password, valid user. So when you log into the web page, the PMW login page, that's all you need. You need the URL, you need the username, you need the password. But keep in mind, we haven't done this yet. All right, this is like a keyword should exist somewhere. So let's put there. keyword, and look. Okay. There. Let's do this again. So apparently, list keywords I require 3 elements, 3 parameters. That's why for this particular keywords I have to define 3 parameters. Call it first one URL, second one username, third one password. Right, arguments. Now I should consider use the keywords I've already defined in this resource file. So basically I say, look, open browser and to the login page, right? That's the first thing I should do. So let's go. So in this keyword, I call another keyword called URL. So this will actually get me into this login page. Just this will display. You should be able to see this when you run into here. And then what you have to do is to apparently, here comes the tricky part, and you have to actually, well, before we carry on, let's make sure it works, right? So when I actually run this test case, it should call this keyword, and this keyword should in turn call this keyword that will actually allows you to navigate to this page. Right? Let's see if it works. Let's go right, and let's go to test. This is like Pbot is the utility provided by Freya Robot Framework. You should have it after you've installed Robot Framework. You just go to run a test. You simply put the text file on the command line together with this .bat. Right? So basically, let's see if it works. So demo opened up. There you go, it works. So basically it, coming back to this test case, and when this test case runs, sorry, where's the test case? There you go. When this test case runs, right, it's actually trying to run this keyword. This keyword is defined here, right? So it takes 3 parameters, right? So what you passed into this keyword is the login UI we defined in resource text, plus the valid user, John Doe, password, right? We passed into this keyword, then it will in turn call this generic keyword we defined in the resource text, and this generic keyword in the resource text will, navigate to this URL. So that's basically what it is. And some reports are generated as a result of running that test case. I'll see if I have time to talk about it. For now, seems everything is okay. Like if you go open up that test case, the report. What's my report? Say. This is my report. Sorry, this is my log. This is my report. All right, it looks nice, and you can actually trace it through. Say in this particular test case I just put up, and you can click through, and it got like a few keywords in there. It says log into PFW. Remember, this is the keyword we defined here. W. And if you continue to click through, it's actually call a few keywords provided by the Selenium 2 library, like open browser, maximize browser window, set Selenium speeder, and title should be this, and all these are defined in my resource text. If you look, there we go, and so everything can be traced through in the report. A good thing is that it's quite detailed. If anything goes wrong, and you can easily identify what actually goes wrong. I'll cover that later, but later on, if I get more time, I'll cover the report. And for now, it's just sufficient to say that it looks pretty good and it's quite detailed. And if anything went wrong, I can probably quickly identify where the problem is. Right? So for now, I've got my test up and running, and the rest is just to continue with the rest of the steps, right? Now we come to this step. We opened up the login page. Now we have to put in username and password. So how to put in username and password? Okay, now we have to use that. This is Firefox. This is Chrome, and we just go inspect element. And for this username, it's got ID username, right? For this one, it's got ID password. So, but if this input element in the DOM tree got a unique ID, things will be a lot easier, right? And you just have to, all you have to do, if you look at keywords provided by Robot Framework, there's a keyword called input text. Input password, input text, right? Input text should be followed by a locator. A locator could be XPath locator that identifies the location of an element, then followed by text. So basically you say, look, if that element input field in this case has a unique ID, then things will be a lot easier. Otherwise, you would have to use XPath or jQuery selector to identify that element. I'll come to that later because I believe that based on my experience so far, you probably spend a lot of time if the page wasn't organized perfectly, and if the developer has failed to put in a unique ID for an important element, you probably have to spend a lot of time to figure out how to locate an element using XPath or jQuery. But I'll come to that later. But for now, it's suffice to say that for this one we've got ID username. For this one we got ID password. Right? So what we do, we come back to this test case, and there we go. Now we've logged into this PWW. Next thing we have to do is we've opened the login page. Next thing we have to do is to use this username and password to log in, right? So we have to go input text. The locator is username. Remember that we've actually looked at this one. This ID is username, right? And the next one is password, right? Username. I'll put in user. And let's see if I can actually putting this username and password. Because I'm passing a valid username and valid password from here. Remember, this valid user will define as John Doe, so we resource text. This valid password defined as the valid password. And let's see if the username and password can be input as run test case. Let's open up login page John Doe. Now we've got stuck in there. So it's supposed after you input the John Doe, right? It's supposed to carry on input password, but we got stuck here. Why? And well, I know why. I recreated this issue just to take you through the problem and see how we actually debug the problem. And all we have to do is to go back to our report and we'll just go refresh. And as you can see, we've got a failed test. And the failed step is input text password, right? And if you look at the error message, it says invalid element state exception message. Invalid element state element must be user editable in order to clear it. So basically, it failed to put this password into this text field, right? Which is kind of weird, but I'll tell you why. You'll be surprised. Usually, right? Usually, the ID is unique for the element. It's when I say unique, I mean unique. I mean it cannot be used for other element. But for on this page, right? I think they've used this for another element because if you look at this. There you go. Look, this form it's got the same ID as this input, right? That's why this error message. The error message says invalid element state exception, right? Element must be user editable in order to clear it, right? Because you know what? When you actually do input password, and it looks for, robot framework looks for an element with the ID as password. The first thing it finds is actually a form element. It's form element. And it goes, oh, this is form, right? It's not input. I can't put in any text. I can't clear it. That's why this error message, right? So really, like, you find when you do UI testing, most of the time you spend was to deal with situations like this. So like when you do a regression test on an existing application, it's probably a bit painful because no one is going to fix it for you, right? However, if you do that during development, and apparently what we identified here is a bug, and the developer must fix. Yeah, simple as that. Right? Sometimes you just make things more difficult than necessary. Right? So let's close that. Well, now I can't use this. Apparently, I can't use ID as a identifier or locator for this element. I have to use something else. So what I have to use something called XPath. So I've used this to show you. Instead of using ID, I have to use something else. And the things I use is XPath. So basically, this XPath says, look, I want you from the top of the DOM tray looking for an element called input. and there must be an input with ID equal to password. So with those conditions in place, that you're not going to mix up with a form element, so it can uniquely identify the input element, right? Okay. Let's try that out. There you go, password input, no problem, right? Now I'm gonna actually have to click this login, right? What's this login button? Hopefully, it's a good button. This is the button. I have a button, ID submit button, right? ID submit button. Let's do this. Click button. The final step. Click button. Button. There you go. And let's see how it works. Oh, there you go. Say I've succeeded in clicking the button and got into this page that I can see all this setup password response, right? So I know that I've logged in successfully. Okay, now just close this browser, refresh. Now this is pretty good. Okay, we've now logged in, and the next thing we have to do is to set up secret password responses by clicking that button and select questions. Right. Let's continue with the typing. And now log into the PMW. Next thing I'm going to do is to figure out what is this. Well, next thing I'm going to do is to have to click this button, but you have to inspect this element first. And let's inspect this. This is a link, right? And the link references setup responses. Now let's have a look at the keyword. We have a keyword, and it should have a click link keyword. Click element, click link. Okay. Now it says click link locator, and the keyword should be used. Okay, let me have a look. Discovered browse to set after this keyword, new indexes. The keyword should be okay. Locator. The keyword should be used in test the script down, and if you go look, yes, click link. Let's click link. Locator. Key attribute. Well, one thing I want to get your attention is that this locator, for a typical element like link or button, you can use attributes like ID, name, href, because those are typical attributes for link. As a result, the robot framework, if you use those attributes, the robot framework will try its best to identify it through this attribute. So back to this button. This is a link, as we see here, and it's got an attribute called href, and let's try to use this ref to identify this button. Let's say click link. list identifier. It's an attribute. Sorry. So the point I want to make is that in addition to ID and XPath, for typical elements, you can use a specific attribute to identify this link as well. And the key to remember is that the locator, and it has to be unique. In this case, I'm pretty sure by looking at this page, there's only a few links, and the text files, the text description are all different. So it's most likely that this will be able to identify uniquely this link. Okay, let's see if it works. Okay, click the button. There we go. So we come to this page now, which you can start to select the secret questions, and which means we've clicked the button. The click button succeeded. Let's try it again. There we go. Okay, and it's all good for now. The next thing, apparently, is to set up the questions. Okay, there are on this page altogether we have like 4 questions. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So let's call it set first secret questions. And apparently we need a new keyword here called set first secret. No, I'll just copy paste just in case. Okay. The first thing I have to do, apparently, is to click this, right? Then mouse over the required question, select it, and put in something there, right? So the first thing I have to do is to find out what this element is. Let's do it again. Like right-click, inspect element. Sometimes just have to move this little thing there. Alright, okay. This is actually a span. Right. By looking at this element, you can see that it doesn't have ID. Right? And this is a div, right? What usually a span, you only specify the class. So you click on this span or you click on this div, it's pretty much the same thing. And if you look at this div, and it doesn't have ID, and you can see that it's a Dojo JavaScript component. It's pretty. It doesn't have a obvious identifier to identify it, to locate it, to allow robot to locate it easily. Well, in that case, what you have to do is to look back. Give me. Okay, let's restart. I just had lunch break, actually. Where are we at the moment? We actually we are in a position to set up the answers to the questions. Right? Now, when it comes to UI test, as I said before, the selection, the location of the element will probably take you most of the time. Depends on your the nature of the application as well as your experience level, right? And after you play a while, and everything becomes natural, and things can go very fast. The reason I pick this example is that I think this is a good example to show that some JavaScript stuff can make the selection of element quite complicated. Like in this particular case, this is not like it looks like a multi-selection list, but it is not. If you look, it looks pretty weird. It's not like a conventional selection list. A select, in HTML DOM, and you have a select. If it's a standard element, then it makes things a lot easier. But in this case, it's JavaScript element, and it's span, div, td, and that kind of stuff. So when I was playing with that, I got stuck on it a bit. Like it took me nearly a couple of hours to figure that out, how to actually select an element. And but after I figured it out, it's so easy. And as I said, it depends how lucky you are and how experienced you are, and the nature of the application. So in this particular case, like I want to select this, it's apparently listed like a TD after div of the span. So which one I should click? And basically you can click anything. Like you can click on this div, you can click on this TD, right? So the question comes down to like which one is easy to locate, right? How do you locate it? Like in this case, like this table element, like this HTML TD element. It's got class, it's got row, but it doesn't have ID. And you are pretty sure that if you are experienced Java developer or web developer, you know that all these classes are injected like dynamically. So the question is how to select this and how to click on this. So basically the trick is that if you use XPath, sometimes you have to go back to the parent element. So in this instance, like if you go back to its parent, all the way back to this form, and you can see that this is a very unique element. So basically, it's one of its parent element. It's got ID called set up responses, right? And underneath that, you have multiple select questions, right? So it follows a certain pattern, and you know that if you follow this pattern, and you have most likely a very you will have a very high chance to successfully select this element. So let's come back to the test case, and first thing we need to do is to select that to be able to click on this element. So let's click on this element. So go click element. Apparently you cannot use click link, click button. The link and the button are usually the conventional clickable item for HTML DOM tray. But in this particular case, because the thing used is a Dojo JavaScript library, instead of using a HTML select, it actually wrapped it up in a TD and stuff. So this is very special case. Most of the development, most of the web project these days, they pay attention to these kind of things to make sure conventional DOM objects are selected, are used instead of all this kind of a weird stuff. So, but it's a typical case. If you use XPath properly, you can select anything you want. In this case, you have to trace back to a unique element called form and with unique ID, right? So here it is. Click element. Form. Go action equal to set up response. set of responses. Form action is set of responses. Set of responses. H2. You see there's a pattern here, as I said before, like under the form you have H2, you have multiple H2. Each H2 has a selection of questions, right? So you have a pattern here. You see, look, I want to select from the root of the DOM tree a form with action equal to set of responses. Then I will select the H2, which is the first one. Then I go table body, tr1, Right. So basically this task says, look, I want to click this element. This element is can be traced from the form element with action equal to action attribute equal to set responses. As you can see there, it's action. You can use ID as well, but you know that doesn't matter. It's the same thing. And under the form, I want to select the first H2 element, followed by table, tbody, tr, the first tr element. I'll put this one here just to be safe, right? So basically, this says I want to click on this particular div, this one here. This one here. All right, and let's see if it works. So if it works, then it just the list of questions should pop up. No, it doesn't. So why is that? Let me have a look at the file element locator form action set of response to table to one table did not match any elements. tr1 td1 div1 2-1. Let me double check 2-1 table tbody tr1 td1 div. So set up responses. And it gives you this error page. It says, look, I failed to select this locator. Okay, let me try some tricks here. This keyword, wait until keyword succeeds. It's one of the tricks I will always use. Sometimes I can't figure out why, because the DOM tree sometimes can be complicated. JavaScript can can rebuild the DOM tree. It's not a problem of a robot. It's a problem of a Selenium. It cannot recognize a rebuild DOM tree. So basically, if JavaScript dynamically or refresh the DOM tree, and you are required to retry. So this keyword will allow you to retry. It says, look, try this keyword, right? Try it. The timeout is 20 seconds. If it fails in 2 seconds time, I try it again. So this is a trick I always use when the page is not stable. Or I'll come to that later. And this is very useful keyword because when you test the environment that the web page is not stable, sometimes the page loads too quickly, sometimes the page loads too slowly, and that will have an impact on the DOM tree, the HTML DOM tree. And the impact could cause the Selenium underneath driver to fail to identify or locate an element. So in that case, I just try it a few more times, and highly likely that you will succeed. Let us try again. There you go. All right. So you can see that this worked. This is a very important keyword because especially for pages that with lots of JavaScript. Static pages, you probably wouldn't have this kind of problem. But for dynamic pages with lots of weird JavaScript, and you probably have to try it several times before it can succeed. And as I said before, it's not a problem of robot framework. It's a problem of it's an inherent problem of the underneath the Selenium library, right? If you yeah, that's it took me a while to find that out, so bear that in mind if you do UI test. And this is very important, right? And we are in business. We are actually succeeded in selecting the first thing. Right. Next thing is that we have to move our mouse over the first question, and to actually select the item. Right? So again, let's have a look at this element. This element is a bit tricky. It's again, it's a div td. If you could be someone, it's actually yeah, by looking at that particular div, it's again like it's a bit difficult to select that div or span element on its own because it hasn't got a unique identifier, and you realize that the class is all dynamically injected. Of course, you have this question and everything. But what I did was like I used a parent item to trace the back to the actual clickable item. In this particular case, you have this table. See this PWM response Q random 0 menu, right? There's a pattern here. This is a 0 menu, right? And for the next question, if you look at that, it's actually random 1. So there's a pattern here, which is pretty good, and we can use this pattern to, to trace each question and make things a lot easier. So really the trick is that I want to emphasize that sometimes you cannot uniquely identify a clickable item or a particular element. In that case, like the trick is that you go back to its parent and find an identifier, then trace it back to the element. In this case, would use this, and you go all the way down to this clickable div. Right, that's what I did. Right, I just go. The first thing is the second thing I want to do is to mouse over. You know, the hover. The robot has got a keyword called mouse over. So basically, it's a mouse over. Can you have a look? Div table. Div table. Div. Let's copy this. Yeah, can't copy this. So let's do this. Put that again. This down. It's a bit tricky here. Close this browser. Repeat the response. Keyword 1, drop down. Zero. First question, browser works pass. Let me. So this, if this one executes successfully, I will have that item highlighted. Let's try it. Very good. The first item highlighted, right? And all I have to do is click on this, right? To select it. Okay. So okay, I'll put this one as a variable. Okay. Put this one here. And just go mouse over. First question locator. And just go locator and click. And click element. Okay, now just go run again. If everything's good, I should be able to select the first question. There you go. I've selected the first question. If you could use someone. Now, next thing is I actually have to input something there. This is a straightforward case. It's got a name, which is pretty unique. So I'll just go input text. Let's call it Robert. The answer is Robert. Again. There you go. I've input something there, and if you look at it, it's Robert, right? Now I move on to the second question. Set. Look, I'm not going to actually, let's see if the first question, because all this is random, this index and everything, the second question, the third question, sorry, first question, second question, pretty much the same. I just go copy the whole thing. Now I've changed a few things. First, locator. Second question, locator. XPath equal to, this is 1. 1. What's the question? The question is, what city? Second question is, what city? And the second and four. That's 2. This is 2. This is the same. The answer is city. And this is 1. Right, and let's test again. Test this. There we go. The second question is set. This is the first question. Move on to the third question. Again, I just copy paste. Question, what food do you dislike? What food? Do you dislike? What food do you dislike? Maybe. Let's just call this. Just call this. Again, it works. Okay, and we've down 3 questions. We'll do the final question now. Again, we'll just simply copy the third one. false. Test variable false. Test 3. This was the fourth question. Favorite book. Did I spell it right? Yeah, okay. So that's why it's good to have a pattern so that you can copy paste. Book. What's the answer to that thing? Okay, favorite book. Of course, you can put all these things as variables, like put them into the front of the test the file. But you know, what else? Let me just call this. Test case. So you cannot execute keywords. You have to execute keywords from the test case. Yeah. And, double check, make sure everything's okay. This is 4. Favorite book. 3. Yeah. Look, you must have noticed that I did a fair bit of copy paste because there's a pattern here. I think it's easy enough. Like alternatively, right? Alternatively, I can write a single one with make this index and everything else a part of the parameter, but I don't want to do that because it's going to look very complicated if you have too many parameters here. Too many parameters make this thing look too complicated. And always keep in mind that you are doing a test case. You're not writing a program or a Java class or anything like that. You should try to avoid repeating yourself. But in this case, readability and is more important than object-oriented approach. So I think a copy paste in this case, works fine and easy to understand. Let's try it again, getting close to the end. First question, second, third, fourth. Okay, let's have a look. This is John, Mead, Sydney, and Robert. Okay, now we've set all the 4 questions. Next thing to do is to click this Save Response button. Again, let's have a look what it is. It's input, submit button, name, class. It's that's straightforward. Let's just go click button. Click button. Alright. I want to do something interesting here, and I want to take, after I've finished setting all the 4 questions, I want to take a screenshot and put it in the report. Yeah, just for the purpose of demonstration. I can go take screenshot. This keyword is provided by this library. Screenshot, right? So it's quite straightforward. You can take a screenshot and put it in your log file. I'll show you. Now let's have a look. Run it again. going on? The button is not clicked. Let's have a look. It's all gone red because no keyword is named click button. Gotcha. Because I think I didn't. Remember I said in the beginning you have to leave at least 2 spaces between the keyword and the parameter. So you have to do it like that. There we go. Succeeded. Alright, and at this stage, I want to check that, I've got successful. So basically what I do is, I go page should contain color sick message. Okay. Then I just go to success message equal to, put it in the variable of the successful message. It's been successfully saved. Just go like this. Right, that's it. So your success message should be like your secret questions and answers have been successfully saved. So, and this is a checking condition, a checkpoint, let's put it that way, right? So let's run again. All done. And if you go back to our test report, it's all green, so it's passed. Remember over here, I said, look, take a screenshot, right? Sometimes it's important for you to take a screenshot. And then if you look at log file, go. Say there, take a screenshot. If you open that, see, that's the screenshot you've taken. It's quite nice. Right, and the final thing we do is to click the log out button. If you want to log out, basically what I do is I make it very quick. Just go button, click. And if you see, this is again the link. It's a link, and the ID is log out button. So I simply go click link, log out button. And that's it. And let's run once, make sure everything works. Okay, you're logged out. Well, finally, you want to clean up things a bit. You don't want to leave the browser open and everything. So you basically just go close down. Well, yes. Go test down. Close. Right, so I've got too many browsers open. So here, so I have to close them manually. Okay, now with this, and the browser will be closed automatically. Right. Okay. And of course, you can put your own keywords or functions there to define a set of actions you want to clean up before jumping out of the test case. Okay. Now that's pretty much it. We've done this. We typed through a tutorial. It took a lot longer than I expected. So I hope that I haven't exhausted your patience. But if you actually followed through this, I hope that my experiences, the things I learned, that can be passed to you, so that you don't have to spend like numerous hours as I did trying to figure out what the problem is, like this, something like this: wait until keyword succeeds, and something like this XPath, to trace back to a parent element to be able to identify a child element. So I spent a fair bit of time to figure those things out. So, and well, I mean, like, if you know the tricks, hopefully you don't have to waste time on that. What else? Let us have a look at the report again. The report is quite nice, but one thing I want to mention is that Robot Framework provides lots of tools to allow you to organize your reports. Like in reality, you probably have to run test cases again and again, right? You generate lots of reports. How to organize these reports nicely is a question. And if you want to keep a month's worth of reports, apparently you have to apply you have to organize them in the way you want. And the good thing is that Robot Framework provides tools to let you organize your reports. Right? So finally, quickly, I will actually address some risks and third-party libraries and risks, right? And if you look at all this, Robot Framework has got heaps of external libraries. That's a good thing, because it's a good thing about RevUp, you have lots of support, third-party libraries to cover all the edge cases you want. In my case, like when we do a proof of concept for a client, they want us to check database, execute a remote call to a Linux box, that kind of thing. So you've got all of them covered here. For instance, you have this HTTP library that you can do a post request or JSON request. With this, like we've just used a UI test. With this, you can do lots of remote execution. You want to execute command on the Linux box, you can use that as such library. So all you have to do is to, as I did before, you just go to that resource, include that library. That's what you need to do, right? And yeah, and installation, I'll go through it very quickly. So basically, it uses pip, and because it's the way you install stuff when you work with Python, and you see all this stuff I installed. If you want to install something, you just go pip install my package name. That's it. Everything should be installed for you, and that's a good thing. Not too bad. Finally, risks, right? I promised that I'll talk about risks, because at the end of the day, we are developers. We do things for fun, but business do things for business, right? So the business people, they want to know how much it costs. This thing, what's the risks? What are the risks? But really, like for this particular test case, right? I spent half day. I spent nearly half day. I guess the reason I had to spend extra time is because I wasn't familiar with that application, the techniques they've used, technologies they've used, and I believe that in a real scenario, like the more you do, apparently, the more experience you get. If you do an application like with, you get familiar with what kind of technologies you need, like XPath and everything. So if you are doing a web project that uses Dojo a lot, apparently, with these tricks, you can, down the track, the more you do, the quicker you can get. And if you do a conventional web application without so many weird elements, then it will be a lot easier. And if you do the regression test along with the developers, then if they do the right thing, you can make your job a lot easier. Because if you give a static ID to every element, then it will be so trivial, so easy to do things. So the developer have to do the right thing to allow. Really, like my educated guess that given experience, given the nature of the application, for the things I just did, I should be, really like, in the beginning, maybe half day, 1 day, and when you, after you got a hit better, like it should be a matter of hours to work, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's open source. It's got a pretty good community, and the documentation is pretty good. The only risk is that the adoption rate is not great in Australia, and it's pretty, how to put it, cutting edge. I don't know. I mean, it's been there for 10 years, so yeah. That pretty much concludes my presentation. Thank you.